with liberty and justice for all. And if we could please have a moment of silence for Daniel Sarner and Robert Cox, who were recently involved in the fatal plane crash. See that? Roll call, please.
Councilmember De La Rosa?
Here.
Councilmember Schickling?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem LaBelle?
Here.
Mayor Marshall?
Here.
And for the record, Councilmember Ponce will not be in attendance as he's at a leadership summit in Sacramento.
Thank you. Are there any announcements or written communications?
I've received one written communication regarding item 10, Caprio Mole Revitalization Project, Phase 2. Copies have been distributed to council and are on file in the city clerk's office. I also have some election information. Just a reminder that the close of registration is May 18th. Vote by mail ballots will be mailed starting April 30th. And the ballot drop box that we have here in Avalon at the Avalon Library will be open April 30th through Election Day, June 2nd.
Thank you very much. Department head reports.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members, and City staff. Jackie Cordero, Public Works Director. I'm doing things a little different the next few weeks because Public Works Week is coming up, May 17th through the 23rd. So I wanted to highlight a little bit of what Public Works does, and then our updates that I will do will be some before and after pictures of current projects and things we're doing. So the American Public Works Association defines public works as assets, people, and systems. But really, it's delivering essential services to maintain our quality of life. Here in the city of Avalon, that means transportation right-of-way, infrastructure, which is streets, alleyways, sidewalks, curbs, signage, street markings, our wastewater system and distribution system, and compliance with our NPDES permit, our stormwater drainage and flood control, and our facilities, parks, and cemetery, which includes tree trimming, parks, beaches, all the city buildings. And really interesting, we're one of the, well, that I know of, only cities, especially such a small city, that actually operate a functioning cemetery. That's really unheard of. That's usually done a private industry. We also manage a solid waste environmental service. That's trash collection, disposal, street sweeping. Fleet and equipment, anything that has an engine, our staff, our mechanics are involved in all the repair and maintenance that goes along with it. Boats, fire engines, the things that responded to the fire today, right? Emergency response. We helped out with the fire today with blocking out roads, and anything that the fire department needs. Flood, landslides, we're right there. Saltwater leaks, sewer breaks. And then on top of all of that, when we're talking about CIP. CIP, we have a CIP, luckily we have a CIP director that manages the Mole Project, the Five Corners, South Beach, Pebbly Beach Revetment, all that. It's a lot for a small full-service city. What we did in the last couple weeks, we had a salt water leak on Middle Terrace, and the middle picture here shows what a pinpoint that little valve was of the hole. Very, very tiny, but the water was going all the way down Lower Terrace, and you could see it now. It's dried up. We do have a second leak that we have to address on Lower Terrace. That's the third picture. About a year ago, we addressed that one. That was on Easter Sunday. And then now we have another leak in that same general area, about 60 feet from our repair that we did last year. During this season, you see a lot more saltwater leaks because the warmer weather, things are being more exercised. So it's that type of season right now. Then we had the saltwater leak on Front Street, and a lot of folks were asking, well, why is it taking forever for us to put the pavers back? You know, the hole was there for quite some time. We had cleanup efforts. We had to get the pipe fittings and everything barged and waiting for it and try to allocate for those resources. But finally, the pavers are back to normal, and that area is back to normal. You could see there. The reason why it took us a little while also is because in the next, well, not the next picture, but I'll show you the picture, our staff were doing Tremont Hall repairs for 2 weeks, and we had already had allocated that time frame, and we wanted to do that. So there was all hands on that. In the last couple of weeks, we also did a saltwater valve replacement on Metropole Beacon, and then backfilled the lower terrace isolation valve we did during that Green Pier massive blow-up that we had for saltwater leak. Now here's Tremont, before and after. If you haven't been up there, it's really, really nice. Paint on the inside, windows all renovated with paint and new trimming. We had new flooring. The stage looks fantastic. We still have more work to do. We're gonna put more lighting, some electrical repairs, kitchen renovation, but all of that takes time. This alone took 2 weeks for the interior. And prepping the outside, we also did that, but now we have to paint the outside too. And then cemetery, as I mentioned before, we're a very small city, and we do our own burial and cemetery operations. Here's our guys doing a full body burial. On top of our leaks that we were dealing with, Tremont Hall, it's a 5-man job when you have to do a full body burial. So it's a lot. Then between all of the last couple of weeks, we also helped remove the epicenter, which was a wonderful sculpture that was loaned to us. But it's a community effort. Public Works is involved in every step of the way in all our community activities. And then what's the next for what we focus on? Just like Public Works in other cities, it's very seasonal. Right now, we're getting ready for our spring, summer, and that's what we're focusing on. It's going to be Front Street preparation from the benches, trash cans, to our beaches, annual wash down, light replacement, landscape irrigation, of course, the street markings around town, the weed abatement that we have to do around town before June 1st, Pebbly Beach road repairs, and pothole repairs. So essential, again, I want to emphasize Public Works is here as delivering essential services, maintaining and protecting infrastructure, focus on reliability, safety, and the quality of our lives, and preparing, we're always preparing for the next season. Right now, the peak season, and then once that's over, we're preparing for the storm season. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much. That's very thorough, and I wish everybody would see this and realize what hard work and everything that they do to keep our town safe and looking good. So thank you.
Thank you.
I was just going to ask Jackie too, how many people you have working for Public Works?
Oh, very good question. We're a very small crew. We have about 12 full-time, given in time depending on retirements, and then we have 3, 4, I'm looking for 4 part-times. Especially for the new fiscal year. And then we have a project manager, 2 superintendents, and myself. We're a small but lean and mighty team. I think especially on the leadership team, we round ourselves out in the sense, even just our Public Works crew too, all of us, we all have strengths on certain areas, so we pick up the pieces where it needs to be done.
Right.
I'm just so proud to be part of that team.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we'll have the fire department next.
Sorry, I don't have a PowerPoint. We were a little busy the last few hours. I just want to publicly commend all these guys behind me. They did a heck of a job today. That could have gone really, really bad. They showed up. We used the old siren. We haven't used that in forever, but that was one of those easy calls of I need people right now. A lot of residents help, a lot got in the way, but these guys behind me right now deserve a huge round of applause and thank you for the stuff they did. that's one of those places where people ask, where don't you want to fire? That was one of them. It's just a stairwell in between each thing. There's brush, there's patios above, there's wooden fences, the weeds weren't that bad, thank you, but it was in a tough spot. Luckily, we had a hydrant right in front. Jimmy Buddy was our engineer today, had multiple lines going. Tough deal. I was so glad I did not hear his voice or somebody say, hey, we lost water pressure.
Right.
Up top, the new engine came in handy. Thank the Lord that there was a freshwater hydrant right there where they parked. So all fresh water into the new engine. They had some accessibility issues. They had to use the chainsaw, break through a fence, cut through another fence. But once they got there, they were able to put a lot more water on it, and that helped us. We had 2 helicopters from LA County. They brought over 8 personnel. At one point, when they asked if I needed them, I walked down the street a little bit and looked up, and it was at that point where I think we got it, but if we have another call right now, or if we don't, and it gets into this attic in front of us, we're going to need more help. So they had some little helicopter delays, but they're still here. They're getting on the 745 boat. And luckily, no other calls going on at that time. But these guys worked their butt off. We've trained for this. It's one of those you don't want to do. Thank God it wasn't the middle of the night. There was no one in the houses. And we will have a full investigation. We have people coming over tomorrow to help investigate.
How did you get, because I didn't see Metropole, that street is so narrow and that people park on one side of the street. How did you maneuver your vehicles?
Just that's where
Did they push cars have to push vehicles out of the way
there
and all
was
that?
a big illegal vehicle parked right in the way that needs to go
Oh, okay.
with no sticker. That was right in the way.
I
But
know
all
what
the
you're
other, you just have to do it. They do what they do. They pull hose in between over. And that's where we are emphasizing and stressing that people don't park. I mean, there you have to, but in other places, people park in the worst spots, and that just stops us from getting there.
Right.
I think we had hose lines going up 3 different stairwells, and then a couple from the top. But yeah, access. Luckily, there was no one illegally parked on that street like there usually is. Or we would have really been a little bit delayed to get by.
Excellent. I don't think, fantastic work on everybody's part. You saved the town, because thank God the wind was blowing the way it did, it seemed like to me, because I was watching it, and that other house that's so right next door to that, crazy. And I guess somebody lived in that house next door, I think. Were they watering down as well?
A lot of people were watering. A lot of the upper Metropole residents were all around watering down houses.
Yeah. It was amazing.
So like
you.
I said, yeah, some help, some got in the way. We could have had a little bit better crowd control. Eventually, we cleared everybody out. We had to have a deputy come up and help remove some other people out of the way at one point. But these guys did a heck of a job, and now we've got a lot of cleanup to do.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Well, guys and girls, I see a couple girls back there as well. Anyway, well, thank you once again.
And that's all I have to report.
I think you're good for today.
If you want to see pictures, I'm sure it's full on social media.
Everywhere. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
So that's a tough act to follow, Matt King.
Matthew King, Evelyn Sheriff's Captain. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City staff. I'd like to publicly say they did an outstanding job. The fire department was fantastic today, and the community that came out and helped out, and we had everything you could possibly imagine out there. I mean, you wanted water, you wanted something moved, helped. It was fantastic. It really was. I was I'm always impressed by the community here, but it was very apparent today out on the scene. Since for the month of April so far, the Sheriff's Department has done 276 entries in our logs. Of those, it was 197 were observations made by the deputies and 70 for calls for service. There were 44 traffic stops and 5 parking citations. Of the traffic stops, there was 8 hazardous citations made, like not stopping at a stop sign or speeding, something like that. And there were 5 written for equipment violations. During those observations or calls, we made 4 arrests. One was for domestic violence. It was a misdemeanor. One was for felony grand theft. That's always a felony. A DUI and a driving on a suspended license. Last Wednesday, we had a great training with the Harbor Department. Sheriffs and Harbor got together, and we actually went through some procedures that I don't think has ever been done before. Typically, what we do is we'd get a call, meet with Harbor, and kind of figure it out then. But now we have some better procedures in place. And not to mention the working together and getting to know each other, it goes a long way. On Saturday, we had a bike safety event over at the skate park. It was an outstanding event. It was put on by Project Bike Love. It's a group out of Orange County. They set up a whole obstacle course. It was a great little event to have. And last but not, or actually we have the wine mixer coming up early next month. And we're ready for that. We have extra deputies coming over to work that. And we have a new deputy starting on Thursday, Spanish speaker, who will be working the weekend shifts on days. So he'll be working Thursday through Sunday. And that's all I got.
Questions, comments?
I just want to let you know the National Guard classes, the DARE classes started last week.
Yes.
And they were fabulous. The kids loved it, very interactive, and I'm in the kindergarten class, so it kind of matters the way you talk to them. They did really good. So thank you. Very excited for this program.
That's great. Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. They called me in the middle of the fire, and I was like, I got to call them back. So I'll
Yeah,
call them
so
tonight.
they're doing every Thursday.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wow, okay. So local sheriffs are there? Who does the program?
It's the National Guard, so it's gentlemen from over
Oh, they come over town?
Yeah,
Oh,
and they'll
sweet.
rotate gentlemen, it's 2 every week.
Excellent, excellent. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, city staff, Kevin Schmidt, Harbor Master. Well, Captain already gave away the big surprise. We did do a joint training with LASD, and so I'll just add a little bit to that. It was a good experience. I've never done that on my years in the Harbor Department, working with LASD. It was nice because, they do crime fighting and we do boats, and sometimes those two things overlap. So it was really nice to get the tan and green and the Harbor Blue together in close proximity and actually talk, and it really worked out well. I was really happy with the way that came out. So thank you, Captain King, for working with me to make that happen. So hopefully we'll do some more of those before summer and then continue with that on a regular basis. We're still full throttle, getting ready for boating season. The swim line, people keep asking about when's the swim line going in. It usually goes in a little bit later than this, but because of the warm weather, air temperature and water temperature, we've had quite a few more people actually in the water and on the beach. So Harbor Maintenance is up there, building a new swim line, all new swim line. So hopefully that'll be in the next couple weeks and installed and ready to go. And then we can put the floats for the outrigger canoes and all that stuff. So we have a plan. Phil and I have sat down and got the calendar all laid out, so hopefully we can stick to that timeline, get everything ready before Memorial Day. We will get it done. Right now we're going to try to get our boats ready for summer, so we got a few things we need to take care of before Memorial Day. Patrol Boat 1's going over on Friday, it looks like, for hull work and a repower. Patrol Boat 5 is up here in the canyon. Avalon Boat Stand is going to be putting on a new Yamaha 150 outboard, which we got through a grant, Boating Safety Enforcement Equipment Grant. So we have another one of those waiting to put on a different boat once that is done. Mr. Gilbert, I'm happy to say, is back in the house and on the clock. So it didn't take very long before he started making some of my dreams come true. So that was nice. He was out there today with Harbor Maintenance getting the pump out float fully back in service. So that I can't tell you how much that means to me and people that live on their boats and stay on their boats in the weekend out here. So, and of course, that means the clock project is spun back up. So they're doing all the prep work to be able to get the new clock faces up and installed. Hopefully very, very soon. Very soon. So that is definitely job number one right now. And then also too, we're going to hire some harbor sanitation workers, probably one or two. So that announcement went out last week. So we'll start on that process probably next week in terms of interviewing and hire a couple of those as well. So in terms of numbers, so since the last time we met, so this is actually, I take that back. This is for the first 3 weeks of April. Total boats arrived, 626. Total mooring nights, 2,328. So that's about almost a 10% increase in arrivals over last year, and almost a 3% increase in terms of mooring nights. So again, those are just raw numbers, dollars and cents. That's Mr. Baker's wheelhouse. Calls, since the last time we met, we've had 4 Baywatch assists, we've had 3 emergency medicals, 46 public assists, and 191 security patrols. Any questions?
Quick question. Do we know when the lifeguards start coming on and sitting at the beach?
So lifeguards have already been,
They're sitting at their stations?
so not necessarily at the stands. So there's a lifeguard today up in the shack in their office.
Right.
So from that, they're able to use one lifeguard to observe both beaches. Now, once it starts, getting busier and busier as we go into season, you'll have them at all 3 beaches. But right
so
now,
by Memorial Day or a little before by Memorial Day?
I would imagine Memorial Day, they'll probably have guards at the stands. I can't say that for sure, but that's most likely what's going to happen. But they've had a guard up there pretty much every weekend for at least probably 6 weeks, I would say.
Yeah, okay.
So.
All right.
Just a quick question. For the harbor sanitation jobs, do you know if those hours can be counted towards captain's license if anyone's interested in getting into that line of business eventually? Do you guys certify that for hours for that, or does that not count?
So they can.
Okay.
Simple answer, they can. Those hours, if you're in a boat that has a CF number or documentation number, we encourage those young people to keep track of their hours. However, we have the ability to go back when they go for their captain's license. We can pull those hours that they worked and we can sign off on them. So yes, those count towards captain's license.
Yeah. I was just curious if anyone's interested in going that route and getting their captain's license, which seems extremely beneficial in life that we see in our community. That's a great role to get into to start with. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that that's harbor sanitation is kind of the entry level into harbor department, and then usually goes seasonal patrol officer, and then full time, and then sky's the limit from there. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Matt Baker, Finance Director. I don't have anything to add until the budget presentation, which is on the agenda tonight, so unless there's any questions. All right, I'll see you in a minute.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Jocelyn Francis, Assistant City Manager. Just wanted to let you all know, John Kenley with ECIS was on island today performing inspections for our NPDS stormwater program, as well as following up with certain businesses on fog or grease violations. So that's really great that he was here today. In addition, the Civic Center Housing Project RFP for Phase 3B and 3C closes this Thursday, April 23rd at 2 p.m. Both of them are online at publicpurchase.com. And then we have submitted our updated biological constraints analysis and biota report for the Pebbly Beach landfill project following the CTAC board approval. So now we're working on finalizing the initial study to reflect some of those changes made, and working with the Public Works Department on some additional comments, and then hopefully we can publish it for public comment, and I'll let you all know when that comes to fruition with the LA County. And then tomorrow is Earth Day. April 22nd is Earth Day, and I've been really excited working with Love Catalina, Care for Catalina, a couple of the dive parks and local businesses in town, as well as CR&R. So CR&R will have 22 sustainability coordinators on island tomorrow, and they are going to split forces helping with the litter pickup, helping weigh in, helping educate our community on what goes where, as well as walking around to businesses, looking at some of those multifamily housing complexes, and really helping us with the Earth Day event and education. So for the Earth Day activities, the Casino Dive Park will have a check-in, check-out station there starting at 7 a.m. So if you want to get in the water and help out, that's the earliest start time. And then we'll have 2 additional locations at Kids Park and Catalina Adventure Headquarters, also known as the Nature Center up at the top of the Avalon Canyon here. From 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. will be their focus for checking in volunteers, weighing trash collected. CR&R will drop off some 3-yard containers here at Kids Park so we can properly source separate what's collected. We'll keep track of all the weights collected at 3 locations, and we'll be able to report it out to our community and to all of you on what kind of impact we can make together on Earth Day. The whole city team is going to get involved. So Public Works will be out there starting at 6 a.m. And then we've got the Harbor Department on the water and the shoreline that'll be helping. And then, maybe if they get some rest tonight, Avalon Fire will help scaling some of the hard-to-reach areas in town where you've got those bottles and cans being thrown. So volunteers, we've got grabbers, gloves, bags, everything that you need to pick up trash around town. And then at Kids Park, closing it out from 3 to 5 p.m., we'll have music, barbecue for the volunteers that help during the day, and then final weigh-ins and awards. And so we'll have awards for first, second, and third, and then the team that collected the most trash during the day. So we're excited for that. Any questions?
For a small clarification, by the Kids Park, do you mean People's Park or Machine Gun Park?
People's Park.
So,
Yeah, across from City Hall right here.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you very much. And City Manager?
Kelly, do you have anything or no?
Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly.
That's all right.
Good evening, Kelly Rebuffo, Contract Planner. Just a quick announcement. Tomorrow, April 22nd, 5 o'clock in the council chambers will be the monthly planning commission meeting. It'll be a short agenda tomorrow night. We only have one item, which is a new transient rental license application for 20 Camino de Flores in Hamilton Cove. If that project is approved, that would be number 409 of 410 of the available licenses underneath the cap set by council. With that said, looking forward to the May agenda would be that final transient rental license application. Would have been this month, but we had an address change, so we need to renotice. And then next month will also be our ADU updates for this year, calendar year. That's all I have, though. Any questions?
So when do we start the signups for the lottery in the future? Have we decided on that one?
Well, that'll happen once we know how many available slots we have. Once we reach the cap, we're not taking any more applications as we go through really the spring and summer and start the revocation process if we get some to revoke. We won't know that until we have that. We're probably looking at the fall.
Okay, so people can't come in and say, I want to put my name on the list when, okay.
No,
perfect.
there won't be a list until we announce available slots.
Excellent, okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Mayor, Council, a couple things for tonight. Just wanted to remind or let Council know, last week I had the opportunity to represent the City of Avalon at the Sea Trade Cruise Convention. I want to thank the Chamber for covering this. The Chamber always covers the city's membership with Sea Trade. Certainly appreciate that. Thank you to Jim Luchahan for the logistics and all the time he puts into scheduling all the meetings that we have out there. Jim, Cindy, and I had the opportunity. Cindy Cassidy also went on behalf of the Chamber. We had the opportunity to meet with all our cruise partners, which is a little different this year than years past since we are under contract, at least with Carnival and Disney. So we were able to really focus on address the scheduling coming up with them, address problems that we're encountering with certain cruise ships and cruise ship passengers, specifically get into some of those issues, and then really promote our local businesses as far as being able to work with the cruise ships, work with the shore excursion teams. We talked to both of them, but primarily Disney, about sending some staff out here to do some training. They're going to schedule that. We'll get that out to both the local businesses and City Hall staff when that happens. Disney has also offered to give the city some help on our queuing and line, people moving, because they're pretty good in the people moving business. So really appreciate all that help we're getting from them. And then I had a couple other things, but I'll hold those off to the next meeting. I really wanted to follow up on the chief and address today's structure fire, because this happened. I mean, the call came in at 12:01, and we have radios in our office, we have radios in City Hall. We hear those calls all the time, but when we opened the door and looked out and saw fully engaged flames, that really just sends a panic through you, because really anywhere in the city, but as the chief said, on upper Metropole there, really when that happened and you look up there and you hope, boy, if we get out of this with only losing, 4 or 5 houses, we're lucky. And the fact that they lost the one is truly, credit to them. As we already talked about, it's extremely narrow street, limited access. The houses are packed in there. It's a challenging call from the get-go, but Avalon Fire Department, LA County Fire, really I want to give a shout out to Avalon Fire Department's reserves. They all responded very quickly, and they weren't just standing around directing traffic. They were engaged in fighting that fire. LA Sheriff's Department, Baywatch, they all responded immediately. And we looked down that the flames were out and the smoke was clearing by 12:50. I mean, that's how quickly they got to that. And, we had the opportunity to listen to the radio traffic, and you can really tell what's going on in something that stressful, because it was so calm. The communication was clear. Everybody did their job, responded accordingly. They had to shift on the fly. So just give credit to every man and woman that responded to that call. Without question, their professionalism and how they handled that saved untold number of houses that could have gone down, and I don't know how many families that would have been displaced tonight. So, I know as the fire department debriefs and they find out, everything they did, there's so many more positives. They'll learn some things, I'm sure. But those are clearly the things that keeps Chief up at night and keeps me up at night, is that possibility of having that fire in town. I do, however, want to take the opportunity to brag a little bit about everybody else, all the other city employees that responded in kind. Immediately Code responded, started dealing with traffic. We had a cruise ship in town. They started dealing with that, the pedestrian traffic and the golf cart traffic that was coming up. Stephanie, our part-time code enforcement officer, was off today. She came in on her own. City Hall staff immediately started posting notices to the public, directing traffic, calling the golf cart rentals to stop sending, renting golf carts, doing all these things to help out. Public Works obviously got traffic barriers up. Community Services, Marissa, Constance, Moniqua, all of them were off today. They all came in on their own. They saw what was going on. They went to the church. They opened the food bank. They started getting clothing available. They started reaching out. When I got up there, Constance was passing out masks to people that were up there for the smoke. Just a credit to all of them for reacting as quickly as they did. It's great to see that. And I just want to give a shout out to Richard Hernandez. I think he was out there for over an hour directing traffic, just stopped in the street. And, if we need somebody to deal with kids on bikes, he's our guy. He was just about clotheslining kids on bikes that were trying to get through there, and they reacted to Richard. So appreciate that. Everybody, really stepped up. It was great to see. So thank you.
Okay, oral communication. This is an opportunity for the community to speak on items that are not on the agenda. You will be limited to 2 minutes, and no action will be taken. After oral communications, we'll just switch it up. How's that?
City attorney, too.
Oh, come on.
If we can hear Scott.
Are you there? Are you there this week, Scott? There you go.
One, congratulations on Avalon. You were named as one of the top 10 small beaches by USA today. I don't know if you saw that. So that's good news. And in 2 weeks, I will be at the city for two purposes. One, for the meeting, during which we'll talk about the new requirements of the Brown Act that apply to Avalon. And then during the day, I'll be meeting in the afternoon with all the candidates for city council in case they or you have any questions about the legal obligations involved when you become a council member. So I'll see you in 2 weeks. And I'm bringing my wife, so that's the best part.
All right, thank you, Scott. Okay, how about council member reports?
I don't have much, so I'll go first. Earth Day, that just reminded me. I remember Earth Day. I was in 6th grade with the first Earth Day. And so it's been going a while. And I would love to participate tomorrow, but I got to work, so I can't do that. Also, I just, today really was amazing. It really was. So kudos to everyone that helped. And we have some fun stuff going on in this town that we need to keep going in this town. And one of them is our beloved community theater, our community theater players. Sean is putting on a show called The Worst Play in the World. And if that doesn't intrigue you to go see it, I don't know what would. But it's May 1st through 3rd. It looks like they're not doing the Sunday matinee, so it's all evening performances. Curtains at 6, doors open at 5:30. Tickets are $15, and a lot of your friends are in it. Paul, our lovely librarian, he's in it, and he's always hilarious. Constance, who works here and at the school and everything, she's great. Mr. Z, Angie Q, I never know how to say her last name. Erica Menudo, teacher at school. Kevin Thomas. And Richie Leva, this is going to be Richie's last show, and we all watched Richie grow up on stage through the whole Kids at Play program, which is now defunct, unfortunately. But at least the community theater is still going, so please mark your calendars for next weekend, May 1 through 3. Get out to the casino and see some live music.
The question is, are you in the play?
I am not.
Oh.
I know.
In the audience.
I was too busy. I was doing this. Next one. Stay tuned for the next one.
Okay, all righty.
I'll go ahead and go next. We are working on a candidate forum. As of right now, it is through the YMCA and the Youth in Government program that we have. So as of now, the date is looking like May 11th, and it would be a 2-hour, it would be broken down 1 hour mayor forum and then another hour for the council candidates. But again, this is through the YMCA, so we are really just giving open range to our delegates. I did say no pressure, but some pressure, because this is a big race for our community. So what they're doing is they're going out, talking to community members, friends, family members on what they think it will be the most important questions to ask the candidates. And they pretty much will be organizing themselves and asking the questions here in the chambers. We don't have a set time yet, but we are trying to figure out a good time to do around dinner, so most folks can come, and then after work. So we don't have a set time yet, but once I do, make sure to get that out to everybody. And I will say, oh God, again, I think a lot of us were triggered today. I know I sure was. I was in sophomore when the 2007 one happened. So a lot of feelings came up that I didn't even know were there. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I know that Chief has or set up already an app right for mental health. But I did want to see if there was a way for us to partner with the hospital, maybe for community members that didn't realize that they still have that. But as well as the families and the kids, the parents that are affected by this. So if that's something that we could look into, that would be great. Thank you.
Just to add on to Mary's statement about community theater, I think it's something that we grew up getting to participate in and going to watch and getting to see, and want to see it continue and hope that it's something that the community comes out and supports. The chance of it going away is a little scary, and so we don't want to see that happen. And so hopefully with enough people in the seats, if you can't go, buy a ticket anyway. Take a friend, send someone else, give it to some random person on the road, whatever you want to do. But trying to get people in the seats and trying to raise money to help get people in the seats to see the show, and just have a little bit of time. I think the complaint used to be back in the day, oh, there's not enough to do, there's nothing to do. That's not true now. There's so much to do. Try to make this a priority that weekend if you can.
And
yeah.
I forgot to say, Sean will be at Vaughn's tomorrow selling
Add that in.
tickets.
Yeah, so Sean will be there this week, both tomorrow and Thursday, and then next week, Monday through Friday from 11 to 1. So there's space to buy. You can also buy tickets at the door. Would be great to have everybody out there. Just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that AVX Networks and Lanceware is in process with doing the mapping of the channel right now. So you may see a large ship come into the harbor in the next couple of days, or right outside of the harbor, and that's what's happening with that ship. I was able to get the information for the Whole Child group, which is the group we had mentioned was doing homelessness avoidance assistance by helping those who may be near the point of homelessness be able to receive financial assistance for rent assistance. Got that information to Dave Hart, and did some outreach with their group this week to see how we can connect with them. I also just wanted to give kudos to city staff. We have a scanner at home, and so hearing Chief's voice being so calm throughout the entire process and hearing the communication between the different agencies that were up there was very reassuring and equally calming in terms of knowing where you could hear them talking about where they were on the property and trying to get into the premises. And I think that every community is fortunate to have fire services that they do, but I think because our community has a fire service that is so local, hyper-local, raised here, knows every street, knows every person, knows the nooks and crannies they need to get into, we are that much more fortunate in terms of not having to have them learn on the terrain that they're on when they're going into something like that. It was very inspiring, and I do want to give a special shout out to Rich Hernandez because he was super helpful and very kind to do that for that amount of time. I was like, hey, are you volunteer? What's happening right now? What is your role? But I love it. The other thing I did want to point out because of Earth Day, and I was really excited actually to see the city and love Catalina's Earth Day lineup. I thought it looked fantastic, and the information online looked great as well. I did want to see if we can re-engage with SoCal Ren for the city and for city infrastructure. They have a program this year for local government, state and federal agencies and tribal nations to modernize facilities and plan for energy resilience. And so trading out sources of heat, electricity, and other types of infrastructure could be no cost or low cost through their programs. And I think it's something that not just necessarily for the City Hall campus, but for fire, for the garage, for the other locations that we manage and operate, to be able to really help potentially bring down costs if we can. I'm sure even if things were put in 10 or 20 years ago that are beneficial for energy savings, there's new things that'll help even more now. So if we can start doing that, that would be amazing. And that's all that I've got.
Very good,
Thank you.
I attended the bike safety class, then Captain Matt was there, as well as Sagecrest and the Bike Club organization. I will have to say I was disappointed with the number of people, the children in attendance. The city staff did everything they did to get the word out. I guess I was a little bit disappointed that it wasn't able to go through all of the children that are enrolled in school. They wouldn't let us publish that. So, and these people were excellent at what they do. So, and knowing that all of us here, everybody in this room is very concerned with the e-bikes and the bicycles and the lack of safety and even the instruction by their parents in what they're doing, I was just disappointed because our city staff was out there as well, set up all day and made it look nice, but I was very disappointed in the turnout. I did go today to see the school music group at 3 o'clock at the 4th and 5th graders, and it was very cute. It's amazing what they can do when they have a music teacher that only comes once a week, and these kids on their violins, the 4th graders, and then the other ones with their horns. It was quite delightful. Anyway, that's all. Okay, presentations. We're going to start with Matthew Baker.
And we're back to oral communications. Do we know?
I already did that. Remember, I screwed that up.
Okay, I didn't know if anybody responded.
Nobody caught that,
Okay.
except the people up there.
Good evening, Council. Again, Matt Baker, Finance Director. Today is the first start of our budget discussions for the upcoming fiscal 26-27 fiscal year. The focus on today's is going to be just kind of a recap of where we're at in this year's current budget, particularly with revenue estimates, and kind of what my initial outlook is for the upcoming fiscal year. Again, because those revenue estimates kind of drive, what funds we have available to operate. So again, just the slide I have at the beginning of every one of my budget presentations. Our goal is to operate in a structurally balanced budget. So that means our recurring revenues are enough to cover our ongoing expenses. So salaries, contract services, that sort of thing. Again, our goal is to be transparent with our assumptions and our forecasting, and so that's part of why we're having this presentation. And then just all the numbers in here are estimates. We are still in the middle of a fiscal year, and all of these numbers are subject to change kind of as we get closer to the start of the budget. So just kind of as a recap, our general fund reserves going into this current fiscal year, we started the year with $15.6 million, net operating revenues of $13.6 million. We did have planned draws on our reserves, though, as a result of significant capital outlays, even after some grant revenues offsetting that. And the budget that was adopted last year had an ending reserve balance of $10.8 million. We did have some budget amendments throughout the year, so this reflects the operating expenditures after those amendments. But we also, in addition to that, I looked at where our revenues are, and we are outpacing where we had estimated in the budget. So again, I try to be conservative when we set the revenue estimates, so that way I have a high degree of confidence that we're going to hit those numbers. Maybe I was a little too conservative with those estimates, so we were budgeting at $13.7 million in revenues, but I think we're going to come in closer to $15.1 million in revenues. And so you can see if we were to spend everything that's in the budget, including all of the planned capital outlays that were in the budget this year, we would be starting the next fiscal year with reserves of around 12 million. So here's a breakdown of our major revenue sources. The one that I'm going to focus on is TOT. Again, TOT is half of our general fund revenues. Right now, I have hotel TOT slightly below where it was budgeted. Again, I was being pretty conservative with my estimates for March, April, May, June, so that likely will change. But our vacation rentals on pace to be considerably above kind of where we had budgeted. The other kind of big outliers I wanted to draw attention to were property tax. Again, I think I was just too conservative with one of our property tax revenue sources, as our RPTTF pass-through tax revenues are higher than kind of where I had budgeted. And then licenses, permits, and fees. It's been a busy year as far as planning fees and building permits go. So you can see we're up about $300,000 from where we budgeted planning revenues. Won't spend too much time on this slide, but this is just a comparison of March 31st, the last 2 years, to where we're at for revenues as of March 31st this year. And this is really just to show that kind of my estimates are in line with kind of historically where we've been at this point. Again, similar with TOT. Right now, I'm estimating we're going to finish the year with $7.7 million in TOT revenues. That's hotels and vacation rentals combined. We had budgeted $17.5 million. Again, the March, April, May, June numbers, I said we're going to do 95% of the prior year, so down 5% for each of those months. I think there's a good chance those months are going to at least meet, if not exceed, last fiscal year. But even if they weren't to meet or exceed last fiscal year, we still should be ahead of where we budgeted by a couple $100,000. So this is just to kind of refresh on when we say operating expenditures, kind of what those operating expenditures relate to for the general fund. Salaries and benefits make up about a third of our general fund operating expenditures. Maintenance and operations, and so that would include supplies, utilities, rent, make up 11% of our operating expenditures. Contract services, the big two in there would be our sheriff's contract as well as our chamber TOT, a group with contract services. And so that's another third of our operating expenses. Those two being the largest two contract services within that group. Planning services, building inspector services would be others that fall into that category. Then lastly, internal services, so how we bill for finances time, the city manager's office time, the garage's time. So all the services that help all the departments at the city, we bill them through an internal service fund. And so that makes up about 22% of our general fund's operating expenditures. This is the same slide, just with instead of by function, kind of by department. You can see our law enforcement and fire make up 47% of our general fund operating expenditures. Planning, $700,000. Public Works, $2.4 million. Again, Public Works, we charge between both the Harbor Fund and the general fund. So this is just the general fund portion of the Public Works budget. Again, just to give kind of a refresher on where we spend the monies within the general fund. What I also wanted to provide council with is just kind of a quick update on where we're at in the current fiscal year with regard to our capital outlays and grant revenues associated with that. In the general fund, we had $10 million budgeted in capital outlays, with $6 million of that coming back in grant revenues for a net draw of $3.5 million or so. If we were to do all of the projects that we had in the budget for this year. Kind of going over it with Bob and looking at where our spend was to date, I think we'll probably end up spending about half what we had budgeted for that. That's not to say that those projects won't still come out in future budgets, but kind of where we're at to date, we won't be spending the full amount in this fiscal year. So the big project is the Five Corners pedestrian improvement. Through March, we'd spent $2.4 million of the $3.3 budgeted this fiscal year. I expect to spend all of that $3.3 million in this fiscal year. Latest meetings I've had with Bob, we should be, other than a couple of change orders, pretty close to where we were budgeted for that project. Pebbly Beach riprap repairs is the one big project that we don't have any spend currently this year, but we have heard back from our federal agency, and so we are, I know I've said this before, but optimistic that we will get the green light for that funding in the next month or so. And so that's more to come on that project, but that's going to be a major project, repairing the revetment along Pebbly Beach Road. City workforce housing, we're going to be discussing more at the next council meeting, I believe. We currently are doing a feasibility study where we're working with a consultant to make sure that the project makes sense from a financing standpoint. So it's a pretty big undertaking, building a 26-unit apartment complex. And so given the cost of the project, we want to make sure that it would generate the revenues to where it would be a good use of city funds should we decide to build that project. And so we'll discuss that project in more detail at an upcoming council meeting. The other projects in scale are significantly smaller, and we'll have some spend between now and the end of the year. But really, Five Corners is the big CIP project in the general fund for the next 3 months. So this slide here just shows kind of my initial thoughts for next year's budget. So in the middle slide, you can see FY27 budget. So right now I have TOT for hotels at 5.15 million, and TOT for vacation rentals at 2.5 million. So again, that's slightly less than where I expect this year to finish. Again, I try to be conservative with that. So if there's a hurricane in August, it doesn't blow up the budget. But I think there's good reason to believe we'll at least meet, if not exceed, that estimate. And again, all of these numbers here are based on the figures I have through March. As I get April numbers in and May and June, so we get closer to adopting the budget, I'll be refining those estimates. So again, this isn't a full budget presentation, but what that means is if on this slide, if we're estimating or budgeting our revenues about $500,000 higher, so 3.5%, kind of where we had budgeted this year. If we increase our operating expenditures across the board by 3%, our operating expenditures would exceed our operating revenues by about $100,000. Again, so this is kind of where our constraints are when we're looking at projects in the general fund for next fiscal year. Again, these are just rough numbers. The revenue number estimate could change as we get closer, as well as the operating expenditures, as there were some one-time spend in last year's budget. But in general, what you'll see is that we won't have a ton of additional revenues if we're trying to operate in a structurally balanced way in the general fund. So on the harbor, similar slide, the started the year with $2.4 million in working capital in the harbor. We had some planned capital outlays that ultimately would decrease our ending balance to $1.9 million. We did have some budget amendments during the year, as well as a significant capital outlay amendment, and that's the acquisition of the shoreboat float. So if with those budget amendments, we would be finishing the year with $1.2 million this year heading into next fiscal year in the harbor. But similar, I try to be conservative with the revenue estimates, and so we had estimated our operating revenues at $10.6 million. I think we may finish the year closer to $11.8 million, and that would leave us with a working capital of $2.4 million heading into next fiscal year. Again, where my revenue estimates kind of varied from the actual ones coming in is wharfage. I had us down slightly kind of from last year's wharfage to be conservative, but right now we're trending up from prior years, even without factoring the $2 wharfage increase. Nightly moorings are up. Kevin's talked about how strong of a harbor it is, and that's reflected. So I think we're going to finish the year probably close to up 10% in our nightly mooring revenues. Some of that is increased in the nightly rates. We did raise rates about 3%, but a lot of that is increased nightly boater visits. The other big variance from where we had budgeted was transfer fees. Again, the city gets a 5% of any mooring sales within the harbor. The challenge with that is in a bad year, we might only have 50,000 transfer fees. In a good year, we could have as much as 400,000. To date, even if we don't have another sale, we have 346,000 in transfer revenues, but it's one I really try to be conservative with because of the fluctuation. And so for next year, I have 150,000 again budgeted, similar to what we did this year, at least as far as the budget goes. Again, not to spend too much time on this slide, but this is just showing fiscal 24 and 25 as of March 31st each year. So you can kind of get a sense of where we're estimating at is in line with kind of historically what we've done in prior years.
Can I ask a question? And you're going to, I should probably know. Cross-channel wharfage, and then the Fund 104?
Yep. So I distinguish for those is we do split for our wharfage revenues. We dedicate a portion of the wharfage to capital, harbor capital. So that includes some capital maintenance spend, but also the goal of splitting that out is to dedicate a portion of the wharfage revenues not to operations, but to acquiring and maintaining our capital assets in the harbor. And so when we did increase our cross-channel and cruise ship wharfage, we dedicated 100% of that to harbor capital with the goal of being able to fund a lot of or at least provide the local match for a lot of the major projects we have in the harbor. And what you'll see in the next slide is our harbor operating revenues, and I grouped the cross-channel wharfage dedicated to capital with the operating revenues. Because they're not a grant revenue per se, and it's just, I think, easier to kind of combine them and present it this way, but they are funds separate from our operating funds that we spend on either capital maintenance activities or capital acquisitions. So again, operating expenditures in the harbor, this current year are budgeted at $9.1 million. You can see salaries makes up and benefits about 35% of the operating spend in the harbor. Utilities, 6%, or that 643,000. That includes the harbor's contribution to sewer, saltwater, solid waste funds for their share of trash and sewer activity in the harbor. Other and maintenance and operating expenses, that includes safety supplies, fuel, credit card fees for processing, insurance, kind of everything that doesn't fall within that utilities as far as a maintenance expense. The county lifeguard contract, other contract services, which include our waterfront trash collection, our restroom cleaning service contract, and our shoreboat contract. Those three make up approximately 800,000 of that $1 million number. Similar to the general fund, we had significant capital outlays planned in our budget. But similar to what we said in the general fund, we haven't spent all the monies we had planned to spend in the budget. Some of this is due to the timing. We do expect there to be significant spend in the next 3 months on the Mole Phase 2 Stage 0 project. So that's the infill as well as the temporary facilities and the long lead items. Those are going to be reimbursed with a federal grant that we received. So those won't have a net cost. Our plans to use the $2 million we received from, I believe it was Congressman Lowenthal or former Congressman Lowenthal's grant for that purpose. You can see the rest of the spend is fairly nominal. The club dock, dinghy dock, we are going to be looking to complete that project in the fall, so that likely won't have a lot of activity in the current fiscal year. Similar with the Green Pier decking and repairs, there'll be some activity between now and June, but just given the timing, we won't likely see a lot of spend there until the fall as well. We did receive a $1 million grant from State Senator Lena Gonzalez's office. That wasn't reflected in that budget number, but it will be in our upcoming budget. The only other big project where we do think we might have a considerable amount of spend between now and June 30th is the Elbow, the Crescent, Pebbley Beach Road improvements. And we do have $300,000 in the budget, and we do expect there'll be some improvements made before the start of the peak season. So again, looking at next year's budget, for the most part, I'm estimating our revenues to be up 2 or 3%, with the exception of cross-channel wharfage and cruise ship wharfage. But those increases are largely attributable to the timing of the rate increases we had there. So we increased our cruise ship wharfage from $5 a passenger to $7.50. That went into effect January 1 of this year. So next year's budget will reflect 12 months of that increase. Similarly, with the cross-channel wharfage, we increased the rates beginning in September, but July and August, by far being the busiest months of cross-channel passenger activity, we'll see a considerable increase in that revenue, driven largely by that increase. So again, just try to kind of put it into perspective. If we were to increase our operating expenditures by 3%, I didn't update this slide. I did it 3% across the board. I know a couple of them have different numbers there. But we are going to be generating about $3 million in operating revenues, more than our operating expenditures. But again, that harbor, the wharfage dedicated to harbor capital, that's really what you're seeing there in that $3 million. And so that means beginning the year with $3.5 million in the fund balance, or in the working capital for the harbor, with $3 million in additional net operating revenues through the year, would give us about $6.5 million in harbor revenues that would be available for various capital activity. But between the mole, the Green Pier, the South Beach project, there's no shortage of places we're going to spend that $6 million. But it definitely is a positive that the harbor will be generating millions of dollars in operating revenues that it'll be able to put towards those capital projects. So that concludes my presentation. Again, we're really in the kind of building out the budgets with the departments currently. We are, we're going to present you with a budget that is structurally balanced, and so we're still kind of fine-tuning what that spend looks like. But this is kind of what we think heading into the year where we're going to be at.
Yeah, it is, and we appreciate your conservatism. That's always paid off really well.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
The one question I was going to ask, Matt, when you're planning these two, just because hopefully it's something that's not long-term, but I'd mentioned to the city manager fuel costs and availability over the next few months, and seeing in the new fiscal year if that's something we need to take into account for increased spend potentially.
I mean, there might be some. That's one account where we historically haven't used as much as I budgeted. It's been one that's difficult to forecast, so I tend to go high in my budget estimates for fuel costs.
Thank you. Yeah.
But I think citywide, our spend's about $100,000 a year. So, I mean, not that $50,000 isn't a lot, but even if
it goes
prices
that high,
went up 50%, it's not.
It's not putting
it's
a
not nothing.
huge dent.
It's definitely important to keep an eye on that spend.
Yeah.
And it will increase the costs of capital projects, whether it's barge fees to ship things over. So there's definitely a potential for added costs. Where I really see the fuel costs is impacting would be the capital projects, because just kind of the nature of some of those projects.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Curious, Matt, for the grant money that you have accounted for on here, is that money that we already have received, or that we've got a green light on, or is that money that we're still waiting on?
For the grant
For the
fund?
grant money, yeah, I'm not exactly sure which.
So for the number here, the 1.5 million that I expect to receive this year, we actually, that's one of the few grants where we were provided the money up front. So we actually have that 1.5 million. We recognized it as an unavailable revenue because until we spent the money, we couldn't recognize it as a revenue. But that money is sitting in a city account earning interest, and so for the harbor, yeah, that grant money is here.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it's high confidence for that. For the general fund, we are still working with Caltrans for the Five Corners grant, so we don't have that money. It was most grants are reimbursement based, but we've approved it and we're going through the processes. So we have a high confidence we're going to ultimately receive the money. Anytime I put grant money on any presentation, we've already been awarded the grant. If it's we've applied for the grant, it doesn't meet my threshold to include. So if you see grant revenue on my slide, it's because we've been awarded the grant.
They can't renege on those because we have those big checks in the other room. Our $2.84 million check, so they
Appreciate
can't
that.
renege
Thank you.
on that.
All right.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
It's great.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, we have another presentation.
Next, we have Urba Catalina.
Here's, I don't know which slide you're going to go with.
We're gonna get that one. Yeah.
And then be all set.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, City Council members, Mayor Annie Marshall, City staff. I'm Alexander Wenger, one of the founders of Urba Catalina. I want to start off with just saying thank you to the community for all the support you've been for all of us. We are hitting our 6-month anniversary tomorrow, and knock on wood, we haven't had any complaints or any issues, so we're excited to keep things going. I just wanted to say, there's been many conversations at city council meetings in the past about adult use in Avalon, and I'm pretty confident we've found a pretty good path forward to possibly get an adult use permit. And I'm going to introduce Jay Handel, who's also one of our founders, and he's going to do a little presentation for everyone.
Good, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff. First, before I get into my presentation, I just want to say, as someone who lost his house in the Palisades fire, what your community did today was outstanding. Not great, outstanding. Your fire department, your sheriff, your staff getting out there. God, I wish LA had something as good going on down there. So I commend everybody.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you. So let's get into this. I'm Jay Handel. I am a member of the Urba Catalina team. I own Urba in Los Angeles, and I own The Woods in Los Angeles in West Hollywood, one of 3 in LA County that are consumption lounges. And yesterday was 420, and it was a bang-up day, to say the least. And we look forward to those days here as well. The reason we're asking for adult is very simple, okay? In order for this license to really move forward and do what it can do in this city, we need to be able to service the regular people without having them get hit for a $25 medical card from some quack doctor who's half retired, okay, and send something to you over the internet, okay? This is money that could stay right here in this city with people purchasing, whether it's from us or a bar or a souvenir stand, but everybody who has to buy from us now has to get a medical card. That's number one. I want to do a comparison. Tested product. Legal? Yes. Illegal, I'll call them the backpack people who come over from the mainland and sell on the streets. Not tested, not safe, pesticide-filled product. Taxed. Legal? Yes, we pay state tax. We don't pay city tax yet here, but we have offered to. We pay sales tax, which you get a percentage of, okay? Illegal people, 0, pay nothing. Seed to sale tracking of the product to make sure it's safe. We're on Metric. mandatory by state. You know, when it got planted, where it got planted, how it got grown, how it got distributed, where it went to. Illegal people, 0. Age verification, we're mandated. We do it. Illegal people? No, anyone with cash. Very simple. Compliance, that's my background. Okay, as a 15-year member of the West LA Neighborhood Council, chair of the Budget Committee of the City of LA, and a hearing examiner for the LA Police Commission, I'm all about compliance, 100%. And by the way, I'm a non-smoker. Never have, don't need it, give me a martini. I'm a happy guy. So it's safe product. We're not asking for brick and mortar, okay? We're just asking to be able to service this community, okay, the way it should be serviced. Right now, we have about 10%, my estimate, of the number of people who live here in our database, who are our customers. And we have a lot of them who say no because they don't want to buy a medical card for whatever reason. They just don't want to pay the money, okay? They can go and they can buy it on the street. And we know it's happening on the street. We see it. We watch it. By not allowing us to do adult, you're basically propping up the black market in your city because they'll thrive. They'll sell it for half of what we do. And it's not tested. It's not clean merchandise. So we have no state dings. We have no city dings. We have been in complete compliance. Again, you heard him say that tomorrow's our 6-month anniversary. That's a big deal for us here, you know, because it's a struggle as a medical only, okay? We're retailers. We're not drug dealers. You know, we do everything by the book, and we try to make sure that people are really, really happy with what we do. Yesterday was 4/20. It was the biggest day we had, okay? The biggest day we had. So what we're asking you today is to consider asking staff to look at this agreement that we gave you guys to look at, as opposed to going to a ballot measure, okay? Look at this agreement. It's not the first city that has done this agreement. Lake California has done it in Lake County. There are other people, other cities that have done this type of agreement. And we're not asking for you to give us 5 and 10 years. We'll say, do it for a year. Watch how we operate. See how it works. Okay? And in a year, you can review it. And you can come back to us and say, this doesn't work. Okay? Or, you know what? We're going to do a ballot measure moving forward, whatever it is. But we're asking you now to allow staff to take a look at what we did and what we proposed. And I'm a firm believer, quite honestly, in what I call the Zev Yaroslavsky theory of don't read PowerPoints. Everybody can read, so I'm not going to sit here and go through our whole proposal of PowerPoints. I'm just asking you, please, look at the executive summary you all got. Have you all seen it? Yes. Okay, it's real simple. This is really simple. It's my favorite author, Cliff. Okay, these are the Cliff Notes to the big PowerPoint. I ask you all to take a look at it. Think very hard right now about how this business can really do well in this city. And the city can make money. Are you going to make millions? No. Okay, not going to happen. Not without a brick and mortar and everything else that people do. But again, that's not what we're looking for. We don't want to be that person right now. We just want to service this community the way this community deserves to be serviced. And right now, we can't do that. So I implore you to please tell me to sit down, banter it back and forth, and hopefully you'll vote to ask staff and the city manager, city attorney to look at what we gave you and come back with a change in the ordinances that will allow us to move forward in a proper, safe, legal, transparent way. Thank you.
Thank you. And stay close, because I'm sure we'll have more questions. I mean, you may have a seat, but I'm sure we're going to have a question.
I'm used to, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Oh, I have a question of this, I don't know if the city attorney's on or Dave Maestros, because I imagine if this was allowed, we would want to tax it. Does the tax have to go before the voters?
Well, what they're
Yes.
proposing, yes, but what, I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, if it's a special tax it has to go to the voters. A regular sales tax, no, but if most cities have a special tax for cannabis.
Yes, okay. Okay, I have a question about the delivery. I'm not exactly sure how you're doing delivery now, but I thought it was stated that you had to have an address. You had to be an apartment, a hotel, which you can still have it delivered to a hotel or whatever. But with this delivery, would this be able to say, meet me at 12th and Vine and I'll?
No.
So where is it delivered?
It has to be delivered to a brick and mortar. So if you're at a restaurant, I can deliver to you. If you're at a hotel, I can deliver to you. I can't deliver to you on the beach. Okay, I can't deliver to you on the corner of this and that. Okay, it has to be a brick and mortar. That's the law, and we abide by the law. If you can't find a brick and mortar, I can't deliver to you.
And let me ask just for clarification, and you all have been doing however you've been delivering, it hasn't been a problem or anything, I'm not saying that. But I thought it was that it had to go to an address and not so much to a grocery store or meet me at the gas station because there's an address to the gas station or whatever. Scott, can anybody clarify?
Are you asking currently, Mayor, the current medical?
Yes.
Yes.
Medical.
Yes, it has to be delivered to a specified location.
Could it go?
Not a street, not a corner, not a.
A restaurant?
Yes.
Okay. Scott, is what you recall as well?
I'm looking at the ordinance right now.
Yeah, I think we'd have to look at that. I think it's more specific. The current ordinance, I think, is more specific with the medical that it has to be delivered to a known address.
And I'm going to say what a lot of people are concerned with. Because this town is 2.5 square miles, but most of it is within 1.5 or whatever we have right here, that people just are tired of smelling cannabis on the front street and up and down the streets and wherever. And I don't know how that would ever end, or they go down the alleys and that kind of thing. And so when, like, the cruise ship people come in, people are very concerned because they're walking down the street smoking pot. And I wish everybody would just do edibles so we wouldn't have the smell. I personally don't mind the smell, but a lot of people don't like it. I mean, and you would still have edibles, I imagine, sure. And, I would say that would be perfect because then we wouldn't have the extra smell. We just have that. But
so if I can interject to answer you, you're talking about people coming off the cruise ship and people are tired of smelling it on the street. That's because they're buying it illegally in your strip of 1.5 miles of restaurants, bars, souvenir stands, and walking out on the street and buying it. We call them the backpack people. They come over with backpacks full of weed. They're in little baggies, and they'll give it to you for $10 or $20. And we know that's going on. It's going on in bars. It's going on your streets. We're not selling to the people that people are complaining about. Right. You're sitting here telling me exactly what the problem is we're trying to resolve, and that is get these people off the island, let them go back to the mainland and sell their illegal weed.
Right. Okay. No, I'm hearing you.
So I don't think the executive summary and the PowerPoint were not on the city website, right? They were not posted with the agenda. So.
Presentation.
So I just wanted to clarify for anybody that's watching and listening out there what exactly they're trying to do. They want to amend the existing ordinance to strike the word medical from the delivery and just put cannabis delivery, because essentially there's no difference between the medical and recreational product. It's just the way that it's packaged. So that's what they want to do. And also there's no, you don't have to vote on it because they're proposing an immediate payment to the city of Avalon equal to 5% of gross receipts under a 1-year renewable development agreement. So in lieu of tax, a voter decided tax, they're offering to give the city of Avalon 5% of gross as in a, for a one-year test program, which I think is a good idea. And I don't think it's going to increase the smell of smoke around because it has to be delivered to a brick and mortar. So people are going to get it and they're going to smoke it in there and then they're going to go outside and goof around. And I agree with him that they're buying it on the street.
Oh, we all know that.
Yeah. So it's like if we could dry up that market, I think that would be good.
And I would be curious to see statistics on how much it really has affected the black market. I don't really think it's affected the black market very much, all the legal cannabis.
The legal cannabis?
I think the black market cannabis is still way out there.
Well, I can tell
in the
you know,
US.
I can tell you in the district that I represent in West LA, which is basically from La Cienega to the Santa Monica border, and from the 10 freeway to the Brentwood border, where I have 2 shops. We work directly with LAPD, okay? And I actually have a team of vendors, including ATM vendors, who report to me when they see an illegal shop open up, okay? And we immediately get it into narcotics, and within literally 10 to 14 days, it's shut down, okay? We have a zero tolerance, okay? It's hard to do a zero tolerance here because, quite frankly, they can't buy it legally unless they spend extra money and go to a medical card. And it's out there right now. So between allowing adult to be able to be sold and working directly with the sheriff's department, which, again, we work directly with LAPD, and in West Hollywood, we work very closely with the West Hollywood Sheriff's Department. I can tell you, we eliminate the biggest chunk of the illegals. Now, outside of my districts, different story. You want to go to San Fernando Valley? It's 10 to 1, illegal to legal. But this is a small area. West Hollywood's 1.9 square miles.
Yeah.
And we have literally no illegal shops.
And do you have, all of our residential, is it within this 1.9?
Right.
In the areas you are talking about, how much of that is residential versus commercial?
In West Hollywood or in West LA?
Either one, wherever
So
you operate.
West LA, you have the major boulevards.
Okay.
You have Wilshire, Santa Monica, Olympic, Pico. Those are the major boulevards of commercial. And then you have Bundy Drive, part of it's commercial. Okay, everything else is very high density. I've got roughly, just in my district, I've got over 45,000 people in my little part of LA. In West LA PD area, which we work with, which is 64 square miles, we've got about 280,000 people in that area. And the Palisades has no illegal. West LA has no illegal. Brentwood has no illegal because we don't tolerate it. We don't tolerate it. And it takes money out of the coffers.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. It deprives the city, whichever city the jurisdiction is, it deprives them of the revenue.
Well, and I'm just trying to ask, because I know people are watching this at home, and I'm trying to ask questions to the things, get answers to the questions that people ask me as well along this line.
And the other benefit, quite honestly, okay, and I don't have figures for here, but weed smokers don't fight. Weed smokers fall asleep after they eat. People who go to bars,
You're seeing it in
I
the
mean, I
corner.
don't know how many
that.
calls for service you have on the bars
Well,
in your area, but I can tell you it's got to be a hell of a lot more than drug busts on the strip. So, alcohol is a whole lot different, but it's legal, and there's a plethora of bars and restaurants that serve alcohol.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I did ask the sheriff a little while ago to be open. I asked him when I heard there was one DUI, how many DUIs have you had here in the last 12 months? And he said 9. And I asked him how many of those DUIs are alcohol related, and he said all of them. So you're not pulling people over for weed.
I know.
If anything, you pull them over for driving too slow. So anyway.
I'm sure that.
I'm curious, and I agree with you that usually all DOIs are definitely related to alcohol, but because this would not be on the ballot and it would be through the city council, if there were to be an incident and it's because it was related to this, is there a liability on the city?
No.
Okay.
It doesn't change, the reason that the development agreement's being proposed is so it doesn't have to go on the ballot. They're proposing a development agreement where you'd enter where they're offering to pay the 5%, which is equal to the tax.
I was just curious if at any point it would fall on us and it was something that we would have to then be in charge of.
That wouldn't.
It would not, the city would not be subject to liability for issuing or for entering into the development agreement. If we did enter into a development agreement, it would provide an indemnity on behalf of the operator of the service if any incident arises out of that use. Our municipal code does require that a development agreement, if entered into, be approved via ordinance. So it would come to the city as an ordinance for approval of any development agreement if that's your direction.
And because they're offering this concept, somebody can't come to us and say, well, hell, if I know you were going to do that, I'd like a bit of this action as well.
Well, they could. Your ordinance, it depends on how, the ordinance provides that you can open it up to more providers if the council determines that it's necessary or beneficial.
I mean, because we know there's other people in town that said, boy, if I could. So I was just wondering.
But doesn't the current ordinance still say just one license?
One delivery, one medical delivery only, so we'd have to change that as well.
Well, what they're
No,
proposing is to remove medical, so it'd be one delivery, whether it's medical or
Period.
not.
So it would still be their license, we just strike the word, they're proposing we just strike the
Well,
word medical.
that would be the decision that the council would have to make, because when you issued the permit for the medical, you did go through an RFP process. You did have various people apply, and then you selected that. So an argument could be made that if you're going to open this up for non-medical, should you go through that same process?
And again, tell me why you wouldn't want to, I wonder what the difference in cost is if I pay $25 for my medical card, or 50, whatever the hell it was, and you pay that much, and then I'm a heavy cannabis user, but now I don't have to pay tax. Isn't it cheaper in the long run to purchase, for a resident of Avalon, wouldn't it be cheaper to purchase medical than it would be to purchase adult use?
Would it be cheaper? Well, again, it depends on the volume they're buying. If they're buying a $10 joint and paying $25 for a card, it's going to take them multiple trips to try and at least break even on the $25.
Well, I'm trying to think with the medical people now, and I don't know how, I have no idea how much is purchased or anything because we don't get any revenue from that.
Right.
I just don't know if I don't even know how many people you have signed up. Is that a question I can ask? Did you already state that,
I told
Alex?
you, we've got about 10% of your population.
You have how many?
In our system, about 10% of the
So
population.
about 300?
Almost 400 people.
Almost 400 people. So if those are regulars, and if I was a regular, wouldn't it be cheaper for me to stick with my medical card? So why wouldn't you want to do both?
So here's the other issue that I haven't said, and it's how many people we lost because they didn't want to pay the medical, which means they went to black market, okay? And that's hundreds of people.
Yeah.
That's people that live here, that's people coming from the ships, that's hundreds of people that we can quantify that, called or went on the
So-
internet.
So let me try to clarify that. So say I'm with Urban now, and I've got a medical card. We award you this, you start going with the recreational. Would it be the same price, or would I get it, if I still had my medical card, would it be cheaper than the recreational?
Medical card is still cheaper because of the other taxes. So, it just depends. See, right now, this city doesn't charge a tax.
Right.
So take West Hollywood as a for instance. They're 7% on recreational and 0 on medical. That's in their ordinance, that's what they charge. San Diego is now in the process of reducing theirs. City of LA is now in the process of reducing theirs, okay, their taxes. Because what's happening is, in some cities like LA, when you add up all the taxes, it's 39%.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's draconian. That's just cities trying to balance their budgets on the back of the people without actually saying that's what they're doing, but that's what they're doing. So if I'm selling for 50 and I can go buy down the block for 20, I'm going down the block to buy for 20, and that's what's happening. So with the hundreds of people we've lost here on the island who have said, no, I'm not doing a medical card. Sometimes it's just principle. It's strictly just principle. I want to join Costco. Oh, it's $75? Forget it. I'm going to Sam's Club, that type of thing. So sometimes it's principle, sometimes it's just affordability, and sometimes it's just, they'll pay it. So, but obviously from the number of people we have and the number of people we've lost as many people as we have. And that's wrong. That's wrong to do to a business. That's wrong to do to the city. It's not a good image, especially when people find out you're the only license and you're dictated that that's the only way you can sell it to them. So it kind of monopolizes, the medical field for these doctors that you go online. And if you ever want to YouTube and laugh, go to 2.5 Men when Charlie goes to the pharmacist and he's got a cough, he wants ganja, okay? And and they pull up this guy from India who's talking to him to give him a thing, and he stops in the middle and he goes, hold on a minute. He puts a different headset on, and he's the guy from Best Buy Supplies. So this is what you deal with. I mean, I could give you a history of stories, so.
Okay.
Anyway.
Questions or, this really isn't for open discussion for the community right now, right? Because it's just a presentation?
Right.
Okay.
I had a question on the ordinance, just to make sure that we're not creating like any legal risks. So we do have it written as one delivery.
Currently.
And would that put us in a legal risk because it is written that way?
Well, that's what Scott's saying, that if you essentially change the criteria of what they're getting after already having that one medical and now you change it to recreational, you're really changing what we went out before for RFP when we awarded it to URBA, because that was under the existing ordinance, which is one medical.
So are we legally bound to open it up to a RFP then?
No, not if you do a development agreement.
What?
Not if we do it in development.
No.
Oh, okay.
But you would have to modify the ordinance. It's the question as to, it's a policy issue for the council to determine whether you should open it up for competition versus whether you are required to.
Thank you.
I think a few things. One of the things that I've always been in support of is tracked sales and the ability to have a product that is as safe as possible for the community. I think we've had enough people that have overdosed and gotten bad drugs over time that is one of the driving forces for why I'm in support of this idea of this, that it offers that service to people, not just getting a medicinal card, but people who maybe otherwise wouldn't receive clean product. The question I did have, and I actually saw Chief walk back in, was my question was going to be just in terms of emergency calls, if either Captain King or Chief could speak to this, what that looks like. I think there have been a couple of golf cart incidents with people who should not have been driving, where they weren't necessarily ticketed but got injured because of their driving skills while they were high. So I just want to see if that's something that we need to be paying attention to. The other piece of this puzzle is, I think, the difference, I think where I'm slightly more in favor than I was at first outset when this was mentioned as a possibility, was this isn't bringing a physical storefront. It isn't bringing something that the voters expressly voted against. But what my curiosity was, Scott, if you can just speak after Chief is done, to the original ordinances, the original ballot measures that were voted on, just so I have that in the back of my head. I needed some clarification on that.
Do you want that now, or do you want it when we actually bring it to council for it?
Either is fine, but if he has it now, that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay, there was one ballot opposed by a gentleman that owned the Hermosa Hotel for a business at that location with a tax. That did not pass. And then there was a second ballot that was more like a sense of the city that the council offered that said, would you citizens support a retail cannabis establishment? And at that time, the citizens voted no on that. So those were the two initiatives that went before the voters. I will note that I've looked at the ordinance, and it provides that the council can up the number of licenses to 2, but you have to make a determination that would be a benefit to the community. And I will note that our office does work with this gentleman in West Hollywood. We are city attorney of them. So, we're familiar with their operation.
Right.
Perfect, okay. And Chief?
I could say, I don't have hard numbers, but compared to alcohol, marijuana is number 2. Like, without a doubt, a lot of, and I'm talking young kids to not here, but teachers from the mainland, doctors, lawyers, I mean, all walks of life. They take something, nothing happened yet. They take some more, all of a sudden it hits them, and they are panicking, freaking out, calling 911, they're having a heart attack, and then we have to sit them on them at the hospital for a while. And then our store incident, that's all I'm going to say from that other, just the calls that we go on. So there is quite a few that we go on besides the drinking, the other stuff.
And I think, part of the balancing of this type of delivery service also is that at least you know what you're getting in the product. You know exactly how much THC, how much, other cannabinoids are in there that you're consuming. And so it becomes hopefully easier to manage. But I also think people who go on vacation tend to do really stupid things all the time. So that's the part that worries me slightly, is just having that experience that that's going to increase because there's access to it here potentially.
Well,
it can happen anywhere, which is also the thing.
But maybe they could, put a little note in every bag, saying, okay,
we don't want to see you at the hospital.
If you're a first timer, wait. If you're eating edibles, wait. It's going to come on, or something.
Sure.
I don't know.
Okay. If I come off a cruise ship or I come off the boat for the day, I would like to think that those folks, because they don't have an address, would not be able to purchase it. And those are the people that are walking down the street smoking.
The ordinance doesn't say they have to own or live in an address location.
They have to have an address.
They have to be.
So the ordinance provides that upon granting of the license to the medical cannabis, that the city manager has discretion and can set the rules for that delivery. I don't have that in front of me right now, so I don't know. That one may require an actual address or a specific place. I just don't have that in front of me.
Because I know
what this business has.
Okay, because I know if you has to go, yes, you can take it to the Metropole Hotel, but you can't smoke it in the room at the Metropole Hotel because there's no smoking in the rooms. So now they have to call law enforcement or kick the people out of their hotel room. I don't know how that all works, because between the vacation rentals and the hotels, which we see how many we have. Anyway, you've got the captain right behind you there, Jay.
Sorry.
That's okay, you didn't know. He's not, he did. That's what they do.
It's very stealth.
Yeah, being that Avalon is a tourist town, obviously, and a majority of people that are coming in, if they're going to be purchasing cannabis, it's not legal anywhere in the state, actually, to smoke it out in public. You can't walk down the street. You can't have it, period. Something like this would only work, as far as I'm concerned, if it was only residents that are able to purchase it that have a place to smoke it, because there are no smoking areas, that are private in the city. So it basically, you would be limited only to people that live here, have an address, and even that matter, have a place to smoke it in a private area. I mean, a lot of people live in apartment buildings or in areas where they don't even have a place to smoke it legally. And it's such a limited space that's not in public in Avalon that, it is what it is. I'm totally for a free market, but as far as having a market for people that actually can use it legally, it's very limited.
So what are you saying?
I'd say basically that you have to be in an area where, in your private residence inside of an outdoor area, you can't smoke in an apartment, inside an apartment complex. You can't smoke anywhere but an outside area, and there are no smoking lounges anywhere where you can smoke cannabis. So it's extremely limited. You need to have a backyard or a patio. So as far as tourists, it shouldn't even be allowed,
I guess that's what I was trying to get, what you were trying to say, because the demand on you would be much more, I imagine. They'd be calling your deputies out all the time because there'd be more people walking around the street smoking dope, smoking cannabis.
Yeah, obviously there'd be more of it. If they're in edibles, that's different. That's actually legal. And
Like I
walk around
said,
doing
That's
it.
what,
Yeah, I was just going to say that. There's edibles, drinkables.
And that's fine because it's not, but it doesn't smell. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can consume a drink in a non-smoking hotel.
Yeah.
So, there's, and it's already,
I know. Yeah.
it's here.
Right.
It's happening. You're not going to stop that.
Yeah.
And no matter how many guys you have out on the street, they're out there. They come off the cruise ship, they get it from who knows where, and they're walking around smoking it. And we just don't have enough, especially on a Forensic Day, we don't have enough people to be able to go up to every single one of them and say, hey, you can't do that, right?
Yeah, it's a non-stop situation for us. Everyone you walk in the street
Right.
saying, put it out, throw it in the trash. It's a constant situation that we're dealing with.
Right. So,
I would just like to note to council that the city did have this on the ballot in 2020. It was adult recreational use delivery and adult recreational use with a storefront. Both of those issues were on the ballot as advisory measures. So,
And the one that came through was a medical, and then,
yeah, those two were both voted down. The medical was the only one that passed. But from an advisory standpoint, the delivery recreational was presented to the voters.
I was wondering, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Madam Mayor, I just want to close with this, so you can all go and I can go catch my boat.
oh, I'm sorry, sweetie. Okay.
Couple of things. So, first of all, again, recognizing the fact it's already out there. Okay, they're out on the street. It's happening every day, and you can't stop them. City of West Hollywood and your city attorney can attest to this. City of West Hollywood just revoked their part of the ordinance that mandated that our shops send security people around the blocks to tell people not to smoke because it was just ridiculous. You can't stop them.
Yeah.
They're either going to buy it from me or they're going to buy it from the backpack people. But I don't know how many sheriffs you have on this island, but you're not going to stop it.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, my understanding of the ballot measure in 2020 was for brick and mortar that failed horribly, like 60-40 or something like that. I'm going to reiterate again so there's no confusion in this conversation. We are not asking for brick and mortar. That's not what we're asking for. Plain and simple. So I don't want to confuse the issues. And last but not least, I appreciate the fact that the fire chief came in and gave information. I'd like to ask to get real data of how many people they actually responded to and transported that were for drugs, and for what the test came out, what type of drugs they were on. Because, you know, people talk about marijuana being the culprit. No, it's meth, it's crack, it's everything else, okay? Marijuana is by far the least of your problems, especially, quite frankly, it's happening here. So, again, I'm just going to ask you guys to
And thank you for responding
Allow
to our
it.
questions.
Yes,
And-
thank you.
And because now I'm sure that people are out there watching are going to have more questions as well, I
Sure.
imagine. So I think we covered a lot of bases, though. And
But
trying to
I
get there.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all of your time. Is that, Yesenia, you're good? Good. Yeah, so the direction is to bring this back in some form? Is that what we're asking for?
I would, yes. That's what I want, yes.
Okay.
Okay, what does that mean in some form?
They have they have a sample of an amended ordinance, you know, with the red lines and everything. And they have the agreement. So, you know, what, does staff have to do that? Do we have to approve that? I mean, do we have to open, so they come back with that stuff, and then it can be published and people can see it, and then there would be discussion?
Well, I think there's, perhaps if that writing is decent or whatever, and it probably is, but then what are the other options from a legal perspective? We have the ordinance way to go, we have to take it out to RFP or whatever you want it to bid. I mean, what the options are for creating recreational use. Because I don't think it's just, I think there needs to be more of what all the options are.
So what I would suggest is, because this item is just a presentation, not an action item, that we can bring back a kind of a menu of options for the council to give direction on. And then after we get that, we can be kind of narrow our focus and what you want to do. But again, this is a policy issue, but we can come back with a menu of options.
Okay. Mayor? Okay, council? Okay.
Actually, I think it'd be important for council to see what was on the ballot previously, because this specifically was on the ballot. It wasn't just brick and mortar. It was a delivery or brick and mortar. Those were two separate ballot issues.
Exactly.
If you can include the numbers of what that ballot initiative was, just so that we can include that as part of the information.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. You did a lot of prep on this, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. Consent calendar.
Consent calendar, item number 1, approval of the minutes from the April 7th, 2026 regular city council meeting. Item 2, approval of the warrants, approval of disbursements for March 23rd, 2026 through April 3rd, 2026, totaling $1,887,909.47. Item 3, adopt a resolution accepting fiscal year 25-26 third quarter treasurer's report. Item 4, currently we have a waterside permit authorizing snorkeling and dive tours for emanating from Lovers Cove Casino Point. The applicant is requesting that that be amended to include unfouling propellers and light salvage within city waters. And that's it for consent.
Is there, look, council, what's your pleasure?
I'll move to approve items 1 through 4 on consent.
Second? Was everybody here last council meeting?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Call for the vote?
4 ayes, 1 absent. Councilmember Ponce.
Item 5 is public hearing. So we have a public hearing on the public hearing to receive comment on the city's fiscal year 26-27 Community Development Block Grant CDBG Fund.
Okay. I shall open the public hearing.
And just for the record, this proposal is that the city will receive $30,154 in federal CDBG program funds this year. The proposal is to combine this with the $84,000 plus that we had in prior years for $114,455 that we would apply to our ongoing citywide ADA sidewalk project.
Love it. I do too. Because that'll get us going down Beacon, so the people that are walking from the church, well, they'll have those little yellow things with the humps on them, the ADA hump.
So I think that gets us, we'll put one more round of another year in before we get there.
Yeah, this gets us to 114, which wouldn't get us too many, so.
Yeah, so I think we'd wait one more year, we get one more year, and then, because this year you're seeing, 5 corners go, so you're getting a lot of ADA ramps delivered. So then the next project would be another year off, but it would be that Beacon corridor that we'd finish up, so everything from Vaughn's the other way, and then we'd be able to do like 6 ramps. I mean, you always can add money to it, but we're trying to keep it, CDBG, because it's a very simple project for CDBG, because the environmental document's easy. Yeah, that's the reason we do it.
When you go to do those things again, though, that one that's on Catalina and Beacon that collects all that water nasty on the
It's on our list. It's on Jordahl's list to
that needs to be
repair.
fixed when you do that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all. Okay, is there any public comment? Okay, close the public hearing. Council?
I'll make a motion to approve the city's estimated fiscal year 26-27 Community Development Block Grant CDBG funds to transfer into a revolving grant fund and adopt a resolution authorizing the allocation of CDBG funds for fiscal year 26-27.
Second.
Moved and seconded, call for the vote.
4 ayes, 1 absent, Councilmember Ponce.
General business?
Thank you, Mayor. General business, item number 6 on the agenda is a professional services agreement for on-call planning consultant. As council is aware, in early 2024, the city engaged in a professional services agreement with Sagecrest Planning and Environmental LLC for on-call planning consultant services for a not-to-exceed contract sum of $150,000 for a 1-year term with multiple renewal terms. Since then, in this past fiscal year, the city has engaged in a number of unique planning matters that required additional services, or not additional services, but expanded services maybe from Sagecrest, more time than we originally encountered in 2024 in the first year that we had them, such as, we had to bring in Sagecrest for our South Beach Restoration Project, the grant application, which obviously turned out to be successful, Catalina Island House proposal for the new hospital, the Island Company's proposal for their new housing, the city's own civic center housing program that we have, and also in the last year we had the moratorium ended on the short-term rentals. So at that time, all the existing short-term rentals that were queued up involved staff reports, and we ran those through. So as a result, in this current fiscal year, we estimate that an additional $75,000 is going to be required to get us through the end of June, under the over and above the $150,000 that we had earmarked for their original contract. And then going forward, what we are budgeting beginning in July 1st in the next fiscal year would be a proposal to have a $200,000 not to exceed limit on the consulting services. Roughly in the last year, just to date so far through March, we have more than doubled the number of building permits that have come through the city, which also generates additional revenue, but it's just the amount of work that we have seen turned back on here in the city with that involves our planning department. So, as we move forward, staff continuously reviews all of our consulting contracts and whether or not it makes sense to bring in full-time staff to handle this or to continue it with consultants. At this time, as we're getting closer, we still believe the consulting and what we get, the value we get for that, is still below if we had a full-time planning director. Not only that, but we'd also have to factor in the cost in recruiting, locating, hiring, and bringing somebody on board. So what we're looking at this time is really multifold to increase this year the fiscal budget from 150 to 225,000, and then we will bring in the budget going forward for next year, cap that at $200,000. What we'll also do is amend what we've had in the budget, which is $50,000 for general planning and LCP updates. We're going to dedicate that portion to because Sagecrest has done those services. We haven't had to hire anybody else that we've had in the past. For this year and then going forward, we'll leave $25,000 in that budget just in case, and then push $25,000 towards the consultant services going forward. Do we have, or are there any questions?
Okay, just a little bit. Okay, but basically then going forward, you're looking at 2 year for $200,000
Per year, correct.
per year. Okay.
But-
For 2 years or 1 year?
2-year
Well, I
term
think-
for
I
an
think we had-
annual accumulative. Okay,
I think
gotcha.
we had 1 year left on that,
Okay, okay. Alrighty.
which would be this coming fiscal year.
Okay, so 200 for that, and then we'd have to redo their contract?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, we'd come back to council at that time with either a renewal or what direction we would go.
Alrighty, council, what's your pleasure? The recommended action to authorize, and you want to do that?
I'll make a motion to authorize an amendment to the current fiscal professional services agreement with Sagecrest Planning and Environmental LLC for a not to exceed sum of $225,000. Authorize the city manager or designee to execute a budget adjustment transferring $50,000 from the general plan LCP update account fund 10255-6781 to the planning professional services account 10255-5005. And authorize a budget amendment in the amount of $25,000 to the planning professional services account 10255-5005. And finally, authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute a professional services agreement with Sagecrest Planning and Environmental LLC for on-call planning consultant services for a 2-year term for an annual cumulative total not to exceed the amount of $200,000 commencing in fiscal year 26-27.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let's call for the vote.
4 ayes, 1 absent, Councilmember Ponce.
Item number 7.
Item 7, Bob Greenlaw is going to be on these next few. So item 7 is on-call consulting services contract amendment for International Consulting Services, Inc.
Okay, this item proposes to authorize city manager to negotiate and execute the second amendment to a professional services agreement with International Consulting Services for a not to exceed sum of $140,000, and that would bring the total to $240,000 for the 12-month period from May 7th, 2026 to May 6th, 2027. Some background, ICS is currently engaged with city staff on a number of complex city CIP projects, including the Workforce Housing Project, the Cabrillo Mall Rehabilitation Project, and some other small ones too, but major ones he's working on with us. ICS services have been essential in development of various project milestones and deliverables, including construction and procurement documents. I mean, he has been essential to helping us on the CIP projects. For the second 12-month period of professional service agreement with ICS, city staff anticipate the need to broaden ICS's contracted scope related to the Cabrillo Mall Revitalization Project as we bring that progressive design build team on. So city staff requests authorization for the city manager to negotiate and execute the second amendment to the professional service agreement with ICS for a not to exceed sum of the $140,000 for a total of $240,000 for that 12-month period. That's the end of my presentation on this item.
So,
and Mark Passner is in the audience
hi
here
there.
too. I'm
So
sorry.
how do you submit bills, or quote unquote, so that we
they're
know
based
what to
on
what's
they're
that?
based on task orders.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, but it has like so many man hours at this cost per hour and that kind of stuff. Does it go like that? kind of like a timesheet, but not?
Yeah, I'll let Mark speak.
Yes, good evening. Yes, it kind of works like that. But before the work is starting, there is a projection that we make. I mean, we're familiar with these type of projects, what to expect, how much time it will involve, and as is customary in these projects, as you start, things change a little bit. You add, you delete, and so that is an ongoing process. But I can say that, and I think that is approved in the records of the past year, that the projections have been fairly close. But to answer your first question, yes, it is a matter of a monthly billing based on a task order, and then progress is measured and a projection is made out like, okay, we're good on this one, or we may need some adjustment on the next one.
I don't want to embarrass you, but this is the most I've ever heard you speak, so that's why I asked the question. And I did it. That was sneaky of me.
This is not my place to speak. It's more in the meeting room. Yeah.
I know, and I'm not in those meetings though, Mark, so I never hear you talk. And
I did catch myself getting intrigued.
I know, and that nice little accent we didn't know you had either. So anyway,
to assure you, each task that we ask him, each project he was working on has a task order, has a scope, and then he has line items, what he considers an estimate for that. That goes in front of the city manager, and city manager would sign that, approve that task order. So we have a general contract, professional service contract. The task orders are the subcontracts under that. And so that's how we process it. And his billing is stellar. I mean,
no doubt. No doubt.
Line item by line item.
Between you and Matt, I mean, he wouldn't have a chance. So.
And I just want to say, I mean, Mark is critical. I mean, he's extremely professional and critical to some very, very important projects we're working on. So he's a very important part of this team.
So yeah, it's not cost overruns here. It is we're asking him to do more all the time because he steps up and hits the home run for us.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to bug you next time I see you sitting in City Hall, because because you're always so serious. I never see you smile either. So
he has a good sense of humor.
I just haven't heard it. Okay, Michael Daly has heard it, but not Mark. So, okay, Council, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute the Second Amendment to the Professional Services Agreement with International Consulting Services, Inc., for a not-to-exceed additional sum of $140,000, total of $240,000, for the 12-month period of May 7, 2026 to May 6, 2027.
I'll second.
Moved in second, call for the vote.
And Annie, they live right across the street from me, so I see him laugh. I see him laugh and talk all the time.
Yeah, after 5.
4 ayes, 1 absent, Councilmember Ponce.
Okay, thank you. Item number 8.
Item number 8, NGO on-call engineering services contract. Mr. Greenlaw.
So this item considers the award of an on-call engineering services contract to NGO. NGO is currently a subcontractor under the on-call general engineering contract we have with ESG. Since the city's need for geotechnical services will increase over the next couple of years, staff desires to execute a direct contract with NGO to reduce costs, because there is a markup as it passes through as a subconsultant, and to provide for direct supervision of that engineering service. So what's unique with this item is that usually we would seek the geotechnical service through a separate RFP. Since NGO was already under contract, and that was procured through a competitive process, and they have been very involved in all of the city's projects that require geotechnical service, the city would not gain a competitive advantages by soliciting a new RFP. These conditions are consistent with AMC 3-4.111C, which outlines an exception from bidding and other competitive procedures for economic efficiencies if we meet those conditions. Okay, and then, second. So additionally, city staff anticipate a cost savings by contracting directly with NGO and avoiding the markup, as I said before. And task orders for on-call services will be driven by the approved budget. So annually, funds cannot be spent unless they're part of an approved budget, which, City Council approves. You see those in our capital projects, and we set a budget for that. And similar to what we were talking about with ICS, we have the task orders. We have that general professional services agreement with NGO if we move forward with this, and then there'd be task orders on that. The agreement is proposed for not to exceed amount for $100,000 for all task orders per 12-month period for all approved on-call engineer services for a contract for 3 years. And expenditures will be allocated to the appropriate budgeted project, okay, just like we do every other one.
That's crazy.
Okay? And they are essential to also the mole project, and they've been also like the Crescent Hillside, the 206 East Whitley. So all those things where we're digging in the dirt, they're part of it.
Well, hopefully the president, we don't have to pay the president very often, or the principal.
Hourly rates.
The hourly rate.
Right.
Anyway, okay, council, questions or comments, or what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to make the affirmative finding that the city will not gain a competitive advantage by bidding and can contract work more economically or efficiently pursuant to Avalon Municipal Code Section 3-4.111C, and award a professional services contract for on-call engineering, materials testing, and inspection for an amount not to exceed an accumulative amount, annual accumulative amount, total for all services of $100,000 to NGO Inc. for a 3-year term.
Is there a second?
A second.
Moved and seconded, call for the vote. Okay, Bob, you're on a roll.
4 ayes, 1 absent. Councilmember Ponce.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, item number 9, Cabrillo Mole Geotechnical Study, Drilling RFP and Contract Award.
Okay. Matt's getting up a slide here. A little bit of a show and tell. So this relates just to the last item, and it's actually NGO when we're working on the geotechnical report for the Cabrillo Mole project. So
So before we jump into this, can you clarify something for me? Because I was kind of confused when I read through my packet. So we just did the NGO things, so they're the geological guys. These guys, so in order for NGO to do their job, they need somebody to drill, right?
So
Is
yeah,
that
so
what
now
that
we're
is?
Bringing the equipment similar to South Beach. We brought a drill when we went out there investigating what, if we could pin a wall, for.
Right.
So, yeah, similar to that. And so I'll go over some of the details right now. So this item proposes to authorize city staff to develop and solicit a request for conduct drilling services to accommodate a geotechnical study to support the Cabrillo Mole revitalization project. Okay, so pursuant to Avalon Municipal Code Section 3-4.205, authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement with the lowest responsible bidder not to exceed a sum of $150,000. So we'd come to you in several steps for a project, and there's a couple of reasons why we're not doing that on this one, is because we're actually going to be out there trying to drill 6 holes in the Cabrillo Mole, and realize there's a lot of people out there, and especially as it's coming up into this time of year. And we want to get this information that the drilling would give us prior to the design build team coming on, because it's, and to get the geotechnical report that NGO's going to be updating, because we already had it completed in previous years, and now we want, now that we know pretty much where the building footprint's going to be, we're going to update that, and it's going to be specific to that building footprint and that building style and that foundation style. One of the things the NGO brought out to us, and which we know well, is that the mole has some voids in it. you know, because we see that as the waves come up, all of a sudden the utility covers sometimes blow up. And so, yeah, and so you think that the mole is actually speaking to you. Well, it shouldn't be that way. And what, let me see, I have an exhibit here. So this is a cross section of the mole, okay? So it was built with, you know, quarry material. And to start that, they put big rocks on the ocean. They dump big rocks in the, you know, quarry waste on the ocean seafloor. And then they started building with quarry run, which is all kinds of different gradation, but finer gradation, not big rocks, okay? And then they faced it toward the harbor side with what is, you know, if you're used to the quarry guys talking, B-rock, you know, so, you know, rocks that are, you know, less than 500 pounds and they're smaller. On the ocean side, they graded that where they have that B-rock on the next level on the inside, and then that slope toward the outside, they have A-rock, you know, which is up to 5 tons. So 10,000 pounds, that's what the big rock that is around, that's the revetment that we use, okay? Well, so what that's saying to you is that it shouldn't be, water shouldn't be just freely, or air shouldn't be freely flowing through there. So if we're going to build a new building that's supposed to have a 75-year life, especially for the foundation, we better be assured what that mole is made of. So what they want to do is they want to drill 6 holes, and then they drop down some geophones there. So they go down and they do some, you know, some testing in those holes, and they come out with, you know, state-of-the-art, you know, cross-section of that, of what actually is happening down in the mole. Following that up, if there is voids, similar to what we did along all our beaches when we had, you know, some voids there, you can do polyurethane foam injection, you can do grout, and so what they do is they call it a grout curtain. And that's, you can see the red lines on the exhibit are the test holes, and then the sloped other colored lines there are potential grout curtains that they would go to fill in. And what that's supposed to do is stop the flow of water through the mole so that the fines don't get sucked out. You know, because if they built it today, they would put geotextile fabric. So they'd put a fabric on there, and that would eliminate the fine migration going from the big rock, the small fines going to the big rock and getting sucked out to the ocean. Similar to what was happening on our beaches. The way that we fixed that on our beaches, when we injected the foam, it densifies and glues together the sand grains and doesn't allow it to transport. So there are several mechanisms here, but they want to make sure that wherever we need to do this, we're able to do it, and they also can finish their geotech report. The design build team comes on, we can hand it to them and say, start designing. This is their recommendations. So there's a couple of things that we need to do, you know, and so that's, we're asking for you to approve us going out and seeking several different proposals from these consultants or from these contractors that would do this, and then allow the city manager to execute a contract up to a not to exceed amount of $150,000 so we can get out there, okay? So, but we will follow our normal procurement procedures in doing this. We just won't be back to council until after we're done procuring it, okay? Instead of the step in between.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the time frame is really tight.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I want to say.
Well, all of a sudden, yeah, this is plan A, okay? And we've got to work around, but we need this information early in the design, because otherwise we're just guessing, okay?
I mean, but, okay, so you're doing a request for proposal. How long does the request have to be out there?
So our request for proposal is going to be out there for 14 days. We already have one right here, and I think we already have.
Oh, I see,
Yeah,
okay. Oh,
yeah.
so you've been on it, okay.
Yeah, we've already, actually, NGO already has done seeking this out, okay?
Okay. Well, I don't want somebody to come back
In
and say,
their
well, you
lead up
didn't
to
tell
their
us
work,
about this.
in the lead up to their work of when we asked them, because they're under ESG's contract right now. In their lead up to say, can you freshen up your Cabrillo Mole geotech report? They actually got all this information and pricing on it. Okay?
Council?
I'll move to authorize city staff to develop and solicit a request for proposals for qualified firms to conduct drilling services to accommodate a geotechnical study to support the Cabrillo Mole Revitalization Project and pursuant to Avalon Municipal Code Section 3-4.205, authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute an agreement with the lowest responsive bidder for a not to exceed sum of $150,000.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, call for the vote.
I'm going to miss that cover, though. Not wobbling in the wind anymore.
Okay.
You can add it back in at the back end if you want to.
Okay.
Just kidding.
4 ayes, 1 absent, Councilmember Ponce.
Item 10?
Item 10 proposes to ask council to, for the Cabrillo Mole Revitalization Project Phase 2 Progressive Design Build Stage 1, award a contract for design and engineering services. At this time, we're going to ask council to not act on item number 10 tonight. Council should have received a protest that was received today. That protest was timely filed. So until we've had an opportunity to give that protest the time and attention to be heard, we're asking to not act on item number 10 tonight.
So that might slow things down a bit? A little bit?
We'll try to act as quickly as possible to give the protest an opportunity to be heard, yes.
All right, if there's no further action, meeting adjourned. So funny, people were tripping because when the alarm went off, I was